Meanwhile, the US has completed its periodic political circus, the shutdown saga. Every time it's the same story. The president asks for money, the opposition says not so easily. They run down the clock with pointless negotiations. The US media runs doomsday headlines, and then days before the deadline, a deal is struck. This time was no different. The Democrats and Republicans have struck a deal. Additional funding has been approved until mid-November. After that, more of this drama. But the latest funding bill has one casualty, and that is Ukraine. Their aid has been frozen. Apparently, that was the bargaining chip. Republicans said, keep Ukraine out and we will approve the deal. So no more aid, at least for the next 45 days. Biden had asked the US Congress for $24 billion. He's gotten zero. What does this mean for Ukraine's war effort? It's a massive setback. So far, the US has given weapons worth $46 billion to Ukraine. It's by far the largest donor. Germany is second with $18 billion. So US support is key to Ukraine's defense. If the US leaves, chances are Ukraine will fall, and Joe Biden knows this.
I hope my friends on the other side keep their word about support for Ukraine. They said they're going to support Ukraine in a separate vote. We cannot, under any circumstance, allow American support for Ukraine to be interrupted.
So why are American lawmakers opposed to arming Ukraine? They had no problems until now. They were talking about teaching Putin a lesson. So why the hesitation now? Because of three reasons. One is corruption in Ukraine. It's a huge worry for US officials. Apparently, the money is not reaching the right places, and Zelensky realizes this. Last month, he fired his defense minister. Last week, he fired 6 military deputies. Reason? None given. The second reason is lack of results. American lawmakers were expecting lightning-fast breakthroughs. Instead, they got a slow counteroffensive. So the idea of more money is not that appealing. And finally, reason number three, isolationism, the policy of staying out of war. It's been a feature of US policy in the past. You may remember this. The Americans had stayed out of both the world wars. They joined much later, only when their interests were threatened. Today, that sentiment is re-emerging, and leading it is Donald Trump.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It'll be settled very quickly. And I will keep you out of that war, and I'll do it through strength, not through weakness, not like they did with Afghanistan. Weak, weak, weak.
And guess what? Americans agree. Let me tell you what a poll found in August. 55% of American voters said Congress should not give more aid to Ukraine. 55% said that. 51% said the US had done enough. So war fatigue is real, and America is feeling it. So are people in Slovakia, by the way. They voted for a new populist prime minister, this man, Robert Fico. He was a pro-Russia candidate. During the campaign, he promised to end all aid to Ukraine. Does he stick by that promise? Listen in.
Our stance on Ukraine is precisely formulated. Our positions remain unchanged when it comes to our statements before the parliamentary elections. I want to remind you that Slovakia has different problems than Ukraine.
That settles it. Slovakia is among the top 5 European backers of Ukraine. They have given MiG fighter jets, infantry vehicles, and anti-aircraft systems, but chances are no more. Robert Fico has been asked to form a government. Unless there is some last-minute miracle, he will stop aid to Ukraine. And how has Russia reacted to this? Well, Moscow says we saw it coming.
We have already said this a number of times, that according to our forecasts, fatigue from this conflict, fatigue from the absurd sponsorship of the Kyiv regime, will increase in various countries, including the United States. And this fatigue will lead to a fragmentation of the political establishment and a rise in infighting.
What happens now? Ukraine cannot sustain the war by themselves. They need alternatives. They need other allies to step up. The European Union is trying to do that. Their foreign ministers are meeting in Kyiv. It's a first in the bloc's history. Until now, all EU meetings have been held in EU countries. But Ukraine is not a member yet. It is not a member of the European Union. So this meeting is supposed to be a message of support from Europe. Sort of like saying that we've got you.
Ukraine's future lies in the European Union, in our community of freedom, and it will soon stretch from Lisbon to Luhansk. With every village, with every meter that Ukraine liberates, with every meter where it saves its people, it also paves its way into the European Union.
Great statements, but can the EU walk the talk? The US military aid is worth $46 billion. If you add non-military aid, it's worth $75 billion. Can Europe raise that kind of money? Do they have the political will to raise it? Putin was counting on Western indifference when he invaded Ukraine. At first, he was proven wrong. The war rejuvenated the Western alliance, but more than 580 days later, his bet is paying off.